Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Russell here, and you might already know that in 2 days on Thursday, Chrystia Freeland, the Finance Minister and Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, is going to be releasing the 2022 budget. Now, this budget is a big deal. This is probably one of the biggest announcements to come from the government each year because it provides detail on exactly where they're planning on spending their money, as well as where they're planning on getting their money to do that spending. That means new taxes and sort of new payments that certain Canadians could have to make, as well as in a video today, Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, who has more power this year than usual, and we'll get into that in a second, well, he leaked that there looks like there's going to be a $500 one-time payment that certain Canadians are going to be able to cash in. So in today's video, we're going to go over exactly what these new taxes could look like, as well as what that $500 payment is and exactly who might be able to apply and what those eligibility criteria could look like. But before we do, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and check out the links in the description. We've got a special offer in there for viewers of this channel where you can get $50 for free when you sign up to buy your first stock with Wealth Simple Trade, and also $25 for free if you buy your first crypto with Newton. So if you're into that, check those links out and it helps support the channel. But let's get into this and let's talk exactly about what we're expecting to see here on Thursday when the budget's released. Now, this year, more than any other year, the NDP has more power when it comes time for this budget conversation. If you missed my last video, we went over the new agreement that the Liberals and the NDP have come to. Now, the NDP have said, hey, yes, Liberals, we're going to vote to keep you in power all the way until 2025, but you're going to have to do some of the things that we want you to do. And Jagmeet Singh, in this video that I'll flip to here in just a second, explains exactly what those priorities are, at least for this year.
With the budget approaching, there's a number of things that we want to see in the budget. And I want to take a moment to outline some of those priorities that we want to see. We use our power in this minority government to deliver help for people, for Canadians who need help now. And so in this budget, we want to see some of that help realized. In our agreement, we had clear checkpoints and deadlines for some of the key elements of help to be delivered. And so in this budget, we want to see first steps on the dental care program. There's so many Canadians that cannot get their teeth fixed, and we want to see first steps and funding for those first steps to start with kids under 12 to get the help they need to be able to look after their teeth. We also want to see help for Canadians that are struggling with the housing crisis. There are so many Canadians that they can't afford to ever own a home, who are struggling with their rent, who are hurting now as the cost of living goes up, particularly when it comes to housing. So we want to see help for Canadians now in this budget who are dealing with the housing crisis. Thirdly, another really key element that we fought for and that we want to see happen is steps to make sure that those that have benefited off this pandemic, those at the very top, that some of those start paying their fair share, starting with big banks. That's an important initiative.
So those are three key points that Jagmeet Singh is bringing to the table, saying, hey, I want to see this sort of stuff in the budget. The first one, dental care. The second one, housing crisis help and cost of living increase help for Canadians, as well as third, a big bank tax. Now, the dental care, we sort of expected that. This is something that the NDP have been pushing for. It seems that it's only going to be for children under 12 at this point, but with the expectation that it'll roll out more broadly in the future. When it comes to the big bank tax, this is likely something designed to look like an NDP win, right? The NDP have been always sort of pushing for, we want to tax excess profits from corporations that have made a lot of money over the pandemic while other people have been struggling. That was their sort of broad sort of idea. But it looks like going with what the Liberals originally wanted anyways, which was to implement more tax on financial institutions, big banks, big insurance companies, other sort of big institutions like that. It seems that the NDP are saying, hey, that's part of our idea too, so we're going to take a little bit of credit for that, which was kind of already in the works. And of course, we have the housing affordability issue, which has sort of been tied together now with the entire cost of living issue and the rising cost of living, inflation. This is something that Jagmeet Singh says, hey, we want action now on this. We want to see something like that in the budget. And there were actually a lot of things inside of the Liberals' campaign promises that are sort of set to attack housing affordability. And we'll get into those in just a second in an article from the Financial Post, which also shows us some changes to the taxes that certain Canadians could end up paying. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Of course, with all of the new spending in this budget, the natural second conversation to have is, hey, where is this money going to come from? And that's when these new changes to certain taxes come into play. And here's a good summary of some of the Liberals' past promises that we could actually see in this budget. The first one does seem like low-hanging fruit here, and that's to increase the tax rate on the top income earners. That's individuals who earn over $221,000 per year in 2022. Pretty low-hanging fruit to just like bump this percentage up to like get some additional tax revenue. The NDP in their pre-election platform wanted to move it up to 35, and the Liberals actually recently in previous years moved it up from 31 to 33%. Of course, this is the federal tax rate. And that brings, like when you work in the provincial side of things, the maximum tax rate up to 55.5, or actually in Nova Scotia, 56% is the highest marginal tax rate for the highest income earners. So that's something that we could end up seeing here. We also have certain tax credits that are going to be included, likely. This is, again, in the same pre-election platform from the Liberals. That's the first-time homebuyers tax credit. What they're planning on doing is doubling this to help people sort of have to pay less tax in the year that they buy their first-time home. There's another sort of housing point here that I'm going to make after I show you this next sort of idea that's going to be put into place. And this is the first home savings account. Now, we talked about this at during the election when the Liberals were promising all of the things that they wanted to make happen in the following years, and this was one of them that was included. It's kind of like a TFSA. We've talked about the TFSAs on the channel before and how they're a great tool to grow your wealth through investing in stocks, and you can do that with Wealthsimple as well, link in the description. But what the first home savings account does is it's one specifically used for saving for your down payment, right? So you can invest all of this money and then have it grow and then withdraw it from the account without having to pay any type of tax on the growth of your investments up to $40,000. So that's quite interesting, but there's a problem, right? We have this first-time home savings account, and we also have what I was just mentioning, the first-time home buyers tax credit. Now, both of these are issues and like solutions that could affect the supply side, or rather the demand side. Man, I can't talk today. The demand side of housing. So if we make it easier for people to buy homes with this and helps with different incentives to help people with their down payment, well, that just brings more demand into the market and could lead to even higher real estate prices. So unless we actually see something done here on the supply side of things, building new homes, making it easier for people to buy homes through tax credits and through other help, doesn't really solve the problem. It kind of even makes it worse. And what budget tax conversation is complete without talking about increasing the capital gains rate? Now, many of you might already know that when you invest, if it's not in a TFSA or a tax protected account, when you have an investment that goes up in value, when you sell that investment, the government says, hey, I want to take a piece of that too, and you have to treat half of the gain of your investment as income that is taxed by the government. Now, the NDP have talked about it in the past, raising this rate to 75%. So that would mean, hey, you make a gain of a set amount of money. Now, 75% of your gain is taxed at your income tax rate. So this is a cash grab for the government trying to say, hey, if you're doing well with your investments, we want to take some of that, they'll say, so that we can sort of handle these government policies and have the money to spend. But I guess that's a debate for another day, how effective they actually are in spending the money that they collect from tax measures like this. Now, I don't think that this capital gains tax increase is actually going to happen. This is just something that the NDP have pushed for, but I don't think the Liberals would have budged on this one point. Otherwise, I think that Jagmeet Singh in the video clip that I showed you would be sort of talking about this as a key point, like NDP, we pushed this forward, we made this change and we used our power. Because his comments weren't like that, I have a difficulty believing that this 75% inclusion rate instead of 50 will actually be included in this budget update. But those are some of the taxes and the sort of real estate changes that we could be seeing here as of Thursday. But of course, we need to get into what I think Jagmeet Singh kind of let slip as like sort of like a spoiler for what's going to be in the budget, which is a $500 Canadian housing benefit.
All those elements that we laid out should be addressed this year, because the agreement laid out that these are things that should happen in the first year. In the housing, for example, one-time top-up of $500 to deal with the impact to Canadians on the cost of living going up, and that's the Canadian housing benefit. We want to see 4 Indigenous housing supports. That's something that we fought for and we believe needs to happen, specifically to help Indigenous communities that have been hard hit with the housing crisis. So these are things that we need to see, as well as the dental care. We need to see these steps taken so that we can see 12-year-olds be able and under be able to get their teeth fixed.
So Jagmeet Singh lets leak here So Jagmeet Singh lets leak here a top up to the Canada Housing Benefit, a $500 top up to that benefit. We didn't know that that was going to be in the budget, but it seems like it's going to be. Jagmeet Singh actually, prior to this press conference, sort of said that, hey, as part of the agreement that we signed with the Liberals to keep them in power, they have to consult us on the budget. So it's likely he's seen everything that's going to be included in it, or at least a high level of all the points. So the fact that he's sort of pressing this $500 one-time payment point means that it's very, very likely to be in this budget. And you might not be entirely familiar with the Canada Housing Benefit. I wasn't super familiar with it because it's not used extremely widely, but this is something that was actually included, this one-time top-up to the Canada Housing Benefit, inside of that very agreement that Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau signed, again, to keep the Liberals in power. Let me show you. Over here, this is the sort of document that provides like all of the information around, hey, this is what we expect out of the Liberals if we're going to keep supporting them. And we're not going to go over all of it. We've done that before. But right here, we can see implementing a home buyer's bill of rights. Okay, so that's one. That's not the one I'm talking about. Including a $500 one-time top-up to the Canada Housing Benefit in 2022, which would be renewed in coming years if cost of living challenges remain. So it seems like they're kind of baking in the housing crisis and the cost of living crisis into one issue, and they're going to say, hey, we're going to give $500 to a bunch of people, and hopefully that'll make them happy with the situation. I think people might be a little bit underwhelmed by that. But then I got a little bit curious about, okay, who would actually qualify for this housing benefit, and how do they currently apply, and like how does that program currently work? And well, it turns out that, to the best of my understanding, this Canada Housing Benefit is sort of funding from the federal government that gets distributed by each individual provincial government. So likely different programs exist in different provinces to sort of help people with this Canada Housing Benefit. For example, here we can see New Brunswick here. They have their qualifications right here. You're working and you earn between $12,500 and $50,000 to get some of this New Brunswick Canada Housing Benefit. But then there's also a similar benefit here in Ontario called the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit, and this is more of a closed application process, and it's not available to the general public. So in terms of who's actually going to be eligible for this Canada Housing Benefit, well, it looks like we're going to have to wait until Thursday when we get the actual document here. That might explain more clearly who this Canada Housing Benefit is going to, who's going to be eligible, and how regularly people are going to be able to see it. Is this a one-time thing, or is this something that's going to be coming yearly? Can we expect to see that amount increase over time? Well, this is all details that we're going to dive into more deeply on Thursday, which, if you haven't already, mark your calendars for Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Right here on the channel, we're going to be watching Chrystia Freeland reveal this budget live, and I'll give you my live reaction, and we'll break down all of the most important points. So I'd love to see you there at that live show. And it's going to be really interesting to watch what actually comes from this budget. This is the first time we've seen this partnership between the NDP and Liberal. Is this budget really going to lean as left as Jagmeet Singh and the NDP hope it will? Or will it just be kind of more of the same that we'd expect out of the Liberals? We're going to find out very, very soon. Ultimately, I think it's a tough situation for the Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, because on one side we have people saying, hey, you need to spend more to help more people, provide more supports. And then we have people on the other side saying, hey, you need to spend less because your spending is actually part of what's causing the inflation crisis, and we don't want to see the cost of living even more accelerate upwards. So we need to be careful with our spending. So it's going to be tough for Chrystia Freeland to thread the needle and actually make everyone happy. And on that note, I'm curious what you think about all of this. Do you think that the things that Chrystia Freeland and Jagmeet Singh look to be targeting for this budget based off of this information is what they should really be focusing on? Or do you think that there are other more pressing matters? Well, either way, let me know down there in the comments. I read every single one, and I try to get back to as many as I possibly can. And as a reminder, you can check out those links in the description when you sign up for Wealthsimple. Again, this is only for this channel, for viewers of this channel. You can get $50 for free when you buy your first stock with Wealthsimple, and you can get $25 for free buying crypto with Newton, a great Canadian crypto exchange. So you can check those out, and when you use them, you support the channel directly. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this video has helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time.